welcome to episode 1 of Spice Talk with me and Gunnar McCormick. We are here today with Miss Wilson, who is a marine biologist and studied in Saudi Arabia, and she is here to talk about her experience doing that. So thank you for being here.
Yeah,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah. So our first question, Miss Wilson, is what was it like being a woman of education and kind of a scientific background in Saudi Arabia, and kind of what challenges did that pose?
It was interesting. I lived in an international community through my university. So inside my community, I was kind of like a small fish in a big pond of all these intellectuals, but it was great that people actually valued what I had to say, and it was really great. But the second I left that compound, I was a woman in Saudi Arabia. No one really talked to me. No men were allowed to talk to me. No men were allowed to touch me. We literally had separate lines for men and women, separate entrances, separate eating areas. It's total gender segregation. So it was really interesting to go from having so much say and being so conversed with to walking outside and it being completely the opposite.
And where does the funding for that compound come from, or who supports it?
It was actually funded by an endowment by King Abdullah, which was the king before their current king, King Salman. And it runs off that endowment, so it is now self-funded.
Nice, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Should we move on to the first wing?
Yeah, so our first wing today will be Tabasco sauce. So
we've all heard of Tabasco.
Take from this side.
Yeah, you gotta put it on. Us first?
Yeah.
All right.
You guys know the trick of like eating wings in one bite, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to do it on camera.
Yeah, you don't have to eat the whole
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
but just
If you want to eat the whole wing, you can, but just make sure you get a bite of
right.
And feel free to put on as much or as little sauce as you want.
Okay. Ooh, I think I got it.
Okay. You can move on to the next question too.
What? Yeah.
I don't eat it now?
Yeah.
All right.
Never had Tabasco on a wing before.
A little interesting. Not bad though.
Very good.
Yeah.
Ethan, where do we get these wings from?
Safeway.
Safeway wings? Okay.
But the hot sauces are separate.
Yeah, these are already have some sort of hot sauce on them, so we'll see how that mixes with the sauces we put on.
So far it tastes good with the Tabasco sauce.
Could you tell us, moving kind of more in depth to the projects that you did in Saudi Arabia, could you tell us about the project involving whale sharks and redfishes?
Yeah, so I studied whale sharks in the southern Red Sea. We looked at what the ratio to male and females were. We tracked them using photo IDs, so we took pictures of them, and also did ecotourism, where we took people from the area out to see them and use their pictures to ID if the same sharks were coming back year after year. We also used satellite tags and genetic tagging as well, where we took genetic samples from whale sharks in Saudi Arabia and whale sharks in Tanzania and compared them and found that they were actually related. So therefore, they must be making these large migrations from the southern Red Sea all the way down to Tanzania. And interestingly enough, I thought this was pretty ironic that in a country of segregation with genders, it is the only whale shark aggregation found thus far that had no gender segregation in the aggregation of whale sharks. There was equal male to females.
What was the purpose of the research, or what was the ultimate goal of the...
Not a lot is known about whale sharks. They're only really seen certain times of year, and then they're thought to have really deep dives where they don't really come to the surface very much, and they have the ability to travel really far, but we aren't really sure where they travel to. So that was a cool little piece that we're able to see that there is some traveling between Saudi Arabia and Tanzania in that aggregation of whale sharks.
And then could you tell us a little bit more about the red fish or the red?
The fish in the Red Sea, we looked at their genetics.
Wait, hang on,
They're Red Sea fishes, don't worry. It's all okay. We took genetic sampling, so we went spearfishing, which was really fun, and took little fin clips from a lot of the fishes. And we compared them all up and down the coast of Saudi Arabia to see if there were movements in populations, if there were different populations from the northern Red Sea to the southern Red Sea. There's a lot of really cool oceanographic currents that go on that create these barriers to genetics in the Red Sea in certain species of fishes that some fish are able to overcome and some aren't, and that usually has to do with their life history traits of how long their larva is in the water column. If they're in the water column for a short amount of time, they can't really transport as far as if they're there for longer periods of time, which make a big difference when it comes to fishery species or species that you're gonna eat.
So like the currents kind of create barriers, I guess, between pockets of fish, and then over time those fish like evolve to have different traits because they're kind of isolated from each other.
Exactly, and it's better to have more genetic diversity in a population, have more connected populations in case there is any disturbances like global warming. And it's really important in the Red Sea because it's one of the warmest seas in the world to see if those are affecting them.
So our next wing is sriracha. So slightly spicier than the Tabasco, but still on the milder end, I would say.
I haven't had to take any sips of water yet, so we'll see how this
Yeah, I'm saving my milk for the end if I have to use it.
I think that's a good call. Good strategy.
There you go.
Thank you.
What the? That's the biggest one I've ever seen. Look at this.
Mine's so little.
Oh, you know what? I think that's like 2 wings in one.
No, I think it's just a lot of meat, dude.
All right.
Not too bad still.
Pretty mild still.
Maybe you should have gone with some spicier hot sauces when you picked them out, Ethan.
We'll see if you still say that when we get to the end.
Yeah, we'll see if we can handle the habanero one.
We might just have to call this talk. No spice talk.
So our next question is, you mentioned to us that you did some diving, and in your research, do you have like a particular experience that was maybe like troublesome or scary, or any particular experience that was exceptionally interesting?
Not while I was over in Saudi Arabia. Honestly, my more like troublesome and scarier ones actually have been here in the Monterey Bay. That's usually what I do in my off hours. I usually go diving in the Monterey Bay like on my weekends. And recently I saw, just this summer, my first great white while diving. That was pretty cool. So it was just going along that breakwater jetty right as you get through the tunnel. And yeah, I was just swimming along, taking video, and I see all these fish all of a sudden like dart up that wall, because that rock wall goes all the way down to about 45 feet. And I look out in the distance and you just see like a big murky figure coming closer and closer. And it didn't get too close to me. It was probably about 20 to 30 feet away, just at the edge of my visibility. And it was a pretty good visibility day, but it was definitely enough to say that was a very large shark, and that's the only large shark we have in the area. So
Yeah.
Wow.
probably about like
That sounds
10
scary.
feet-ish.
Yeah. Is that must be like, is that how big they usually get, or?
They can get up to, I think, more like 15 when they're full grown, so it was a younger one. So that makes me feel a little better, because when they're littler, they tend to eat just fish, and then once they reach maturity, that's when they start going after mammals such as us.
Do they, when they eat humans, is it like intentionally to eat a human, or do they mistake them
they don't
for?
really eat humans. They just like take a nom and realize that's
Doesn't
not what
taste good?
I thought it was. Apparently we just don't taste good to them. So they think
That's good for us.
that we look like seals commonly because we're in wetsuits and we're swimming around, usually on the surface. I feel a lot more comfortable, honestly, seeing a shark while diving on the bottom than I do like surfing on the top, mostly because they attack from below. And if I'm already on the bottom, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with that. So at least I wasn't actually that scared when I saw it. I was more just like in awe, which was really, really cool.
Move on to the next.
I was waiting for you to take a drink of water. I didn't want to be the first one to take a sip.
It's for the interview today. Enunciate better. So our next hot sauce is Frank's Red Hot sauce, which is a pretty classic, just wing sauce. But I think it's a little bit spicy too. So
I hope it's spicy.
It's spicy. You gonna put that much on yours?
Yeah, bro. I put more than you last time.
Whoa.
Okay.
Good luck with that one. That was a heavy pour there.
It came out a little faster than I thought. Oh, God. Oh, no.
You're starting to feel it over there? I have to admit, I've been building up my spice tolerance over this last week ever since I got the interview. I was like, I gotta eat. I've been eating hot wings like every few days, been taking a lot of trips to Wingstop.
Yeah, these aren't insanely hot, but I think they'll give you a good run for your money, I think.
It'll probably be one of those slow burns where it just builds and builds, kind of like bioaccumulation.
What inspired you to first get into marine biology? Like when you first got excited in it or interested in it?
It's actually kind of an interesting story. So originally I have been told since I was probably 4, like as early as I can remember, that I love animals and I should be a veterinarian. So I went the whole pre-vet route and I got really bored of taking basic biology classes over and over again. And so when I got into university, I transferred. I was going to transfer in my junior year into either UC Santa Cruz or UC Davis. UC Davis makes sense with the pre-vet route, but UC Santa Cruz made sense with the living at home and saving money route. I'm originally from Santa Cruz, so that made sense.
Me too, actually.
Nice.
And their marine biology program's very
It's
very
amazing.
Good also.
It really is. And I went into their advising office and went to talk to them about what classes I could take. And I got really excited about all their marine biology classes that they offered. And I did the same thing at Davis for their pre-vet classes, and I just wasn't excited about the classes I could be taking. So that kind of made me totally shift what I thought my major was going to be. But I don't regret it at all. It opened up amazing opportunities. I did a semester abroad in South Africa studying bareheaded gobies next to a penguin colony. I got to go to Saudi Arabia. I also got to study sea star wasting disease back in 2014. I was one of the first people to report the degradation of our sea star population when they caught that virus. So that was really, really amazing experiences that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Maybe do you want to go into more depth about the sea star
wasting disease?
virus?
Yeah, so it was back in 2014. I was doing just a study on, I wanted to study sunflower stars as an apex predator because they hadn't quite been classified as an apex predator, but they are very much generalist feeders, so I wanted to do some experiments with them. I went off of Hopkins Marine Station right next to the aquarium and just did some general surveys to see how many sea stars were in the area that I could do this study on. I went out 1 week and did these surveys and counted sea stars. I went out the next week and couldn't find any sea stars, which was crazy because there were tons of them literally the week before. And the few that I could find just looked like they started melting. They just did not look okay. And so I reported that to my advisor, and we started doing a reporting program of where this was occurring, and we found it occurred all the way up to British Columbia and all the way down to Baja area. So it became a really widespread event, and our sunflower stars haven't recovered from it. You hardly ever see them out in the bay anymore, which they used to be very popular, and they used to get to be huge, and they have 20 arms, and they're purple and really fun to see, and now you just can't find them anywhere, which is really sad. But all other sea star populations seem to have recovered, at least persisted throughout this, and it took them almost a year to figure out what was the cause of it, and it turned out to be a virus that got inoculated by the rising sea surface temperatures.
Interesting. So our next hot sauce is jalapeno hot sauce.
Ooh, now we're getting spicy.
Safeway brand.
Safeway?
Did
they give us 17th, 18th full of hot sauce?
No, they did not. But I think this will definitely be the spiciest one so far. I hope so.
Well, I'd hope that the fourth hot sauce is spicier than the third. That's how the show generally works, right?
I have a feeling you guys are gonna like start me off and be like, oh, it's fine, you're handling it great, and all of a sudden it'll be like, wow, spicy.
Well, hopefully the last one will be very spicy.
We'll see.
There you go. Yeah, maybe I should put some more on. How's it? Your face is red.
Is it? It's not.
No,
it's a little bit spicy.
It's not spicy. Tastes like tomato sauce.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad actually. Also came out in small quantities.
It gets spicier in the
I could put
all that just sits.
I could put this on my
Got a good
pasta.
afterburn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It does have an afterburn.
So our next question is, what, in your experience getting your degree, what was your kind of favorite thing that you studied, or maybe favorite project that you worked on, or?
It definitely has to be the whale sharks. There's nothing like chasing something that's so large and surprisingly and deceptively fast. Like when you see videos of them, they've got those slow moving tails and they just kind of like look like they're drifting through the water. But keep in mind, the tail is taller than I am, and also one of those things that if they accidentally hit you with it, they can easily break a bone. And I'm swimming with fins that are literally about half my height, so they're pretty long fins to try and keep up with them. And I'm just swimming as fast as I can. And it was really interesting, like trying to put tags on these animals too, and being able to engineer those tags as well to make it so that they'll stay on for as long as we wanted them to. And it depended what type of tags we were using too. If we wanted to have a tag that communicated via satellite, it's not going to communicate through the water, so it has to pop off at some time, and we wanted to see, okay, how long do we want this tag to stay on to collect this amount of data? How are we going to be able to get that time with being able to pop it off? And then we also had acoustic tags too, where we had receivers underwater that we could get data from all the time, but they had to come within a certain distance of that receiver. So there was an inherent challenge with working with large animals and tracking large animals, but it's so interesting and so much fun. And just being out in the field all the time, it's really great.
What's the process of getting the tags on the sharks exactly?
Again, it depends what kind of tag it is. For the satellite tags, we pretty much had like these foam clamps that we would go and clamp onto their dorsal fin. And so you have to swim as quickly as you can, like stretch open the clamp, get it on the shark, release it so that it would clamp to it, and then it would have a rope that would degrade over time, and the receiver would pop off, and then it would communicate the data with the satellite for us to download. And then the acoustic ones are more permanent tags, so we would actually spear the whale shark into about its dorsal fin area as well to have a permanent tag on them.
Did that like hurt the whale?
So their skin is 3 inches thick. I don't think I actually broke their skin like to get to where they would even bleed at that point because they have such thick skin.
Got it.
So it was one of those things where it kind of just felt like a little pinch to them, if that.
And then biologically, are whale sharks like classified as a whale or as a shark?
They are shark. They're called a whale shark because they are the largest shark. So they're a whale of a shark.
And then are they aggressive at all towards humans, or is swimming next to
No,
them
they're definitely
completely-
the gentle giants of the sea because they eat small krill species mostly. So it's not any concern that they would eat us, maybe like accidentally swallow us because they're just so big, but they do not intentionally harm humans, no.
So our next hot sauce is harissa hot sauce, and this one I think is made with
Harissa.
yeah, with habanero. This one has habanero.
Oh, yeah?
So this one
Should be spicy.
should be a bit spicier.
Tomato sauce is a low bar, right?
Yeah, maybe be careful with this one.
Oh, yeah.
Don't put too much.
That's a big pour. Huh?
You say that.
It comes out fast. Be careful.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Second to last. Spicy. Get the milk ready. Oh man. Oh man. Let's see.
Maybe it's a slow burn.
Yeah, so far it's not as spicy as I expected, guys.
I know.
Gonna have to up your spice game.
No, I wasn't in charge of picking out the sauces.
Sorry. I have a feeling this one's probably
Maybe
going to be
it's
a
a little
slow
bit
burn. I'm starting to get a tingly
Hopefully the
sensation.
last one. I mean, at this point, we're not even gonna need milk.
It's a slow burn. You don't feel it at all?
Slow burn. Do you have, like, as a marine biologist, do you have a favorite marine, like, species?
I really like the mola mola and the sarcastic fringehead. Sarcastic fringehead because that's probably the coolest name of any fish ever. They also have a rainbow mouth that they use to like mouth wrestle that expands bigger than their body to defend their territory. So those are really cool. And then the mola mola, I just think evolutionarily is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's essentially the size of a dinner plate and is essentially a dinner plate. You've seen like sea lions come down and like that meme of where it bites the poor mola's head. That happens all the time out in the bay. I've never seen a healthy mola diving out in the bay. I'll be really excited when I do, but it hasn't happened yet. I always find them like with no fins and no eyes. They just really like to get messed with by the sea lions. And I think the only reason that they persist and why they're still around is they have 5,000 babies at once. So you'll find a lot of small molas, but to get to the really big mola sizes is pretty rare because not only do they have sea lions that they're combating, a lot of the times boat motors will cut them in half too. You hanging in there?
Well, yeah, my tongue's just tingly on
You're
this.
getting a little red there.
That was kind of a hot one at the end.
Do you have a least favorite Ocean animal or?
Not super fond of jellyfish for the obvious reason of that they hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're as ecologically important as some other species. Not a lot of things eat them. I mean, the mola mola does, but it also eats other things as well. And I guess loggerhead turtles eat them as well. But they're also becoming more and more prevalent with global warming as well. So it'll be harder and harder to go to the beaches coming in the future, guys, just because we're getting these huge jelly smacks, which is also my favorite name for a group of animals ever, because it adequately describes what it is. A smack of jellies, because when you swim through it, that's exactly what it feels like.
How does global warming affect their populations?
So you get more and more algae blooms with the warmer surface temperatures, and it creates a better environment for those guys to consume their algae and be able to reproduce.
Have you been stung by one before?
Yes, yeah, that's why I'm real salty about those guys.
Which species?
The sea nettles that we have out here, the brown ones that you can see huge populations of. Like if you go to the harbor right now, we actually have quite a few of them that you can just see on the surface. And they don't hurt that bad. They literally feel like stepping on a nettle. And the only place that you can get stung by them when you're out diving is right around your lips, because that's the only place that's exposed. But you always get those like really big Angelina Jolie lips when it happens.
That must be pretty painful.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Which species like would hurt like the most if you got stung by? Do you know?
Well, man-o-wars around here really hurt. And then box jellies will kill you in Australia. So, and those ones are like scary too, because they're so small that you hardly see it coming. So a lot of beaches in Australia, they'll actually put big nets around the swimming area to keep those guys out and to protect the population and people.
You want to move on to the last one?
Yeah, we're on our final hot sauce. This is Melinda's Original Habanero Extra Hot Pepper Sauce.
Extra hot.
So maybe
Maybe this will do it. Maybe I'll have to grab my milk on this one.
maybe.
I'm gonna clear my palate for this one.
How much you think?
I'd say just go for it.
Go all out, honestly. There you go.
My tongue is still kind of steaming.
Don't you
that
got
last
the
one.
milk?
No, I don't need the milk.
All right, are you ready, guys?
I'm gonna drink the milk.
Are we doing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it.
Last.
This could be a spicy one.
I think it's another slow burn one.
They're all slow burners.
You feel it?
Not yet. Do you feel it?
A little bit.
Yeah, I feel it a little bit. My nose is starting to run a little bit.
I mean, we got the glass of milk.
He's going for it. Oh, first one to do the milk.
Dude, this one's definitely like gonna burn for a little while.
What type of milk is this?
So after those 6 hot sauces, how are your taste buds feeling?
A little tingly, a little tingly. I didn't have to go for the milk, so it wasn't so bad, but I definitely feel it.
Yeah.
My nose is starting to run a little bit.
You?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I definitely feel it.
Yeah, no, I feel it for sure. I don't think it was as hot as I expected, but I definitely felt something with those last few sauces. So thank you so much for coming on Spice Talk. Do you have, now that you've gone through all 6 wings, do you have something that you would like to say to your followers or to students of Stevenson School? Or
just when it comes to marine science, the more you know, the more you want to protect. So I look for our senior class elective in the fall or spring. And if you have any questions related to Saudi Arabia or marine science, feel free to come see me in the science building.
All right. So that was our first episode, our pilot episode of Spice Talk. If any of you guys watching would like to come on in a future episode, you can email spicetalk@kspb.org with your names and with the topic that you would like to talk about. This is Spice Talk, the show with spicy questions and not so spicy wings. Thank you guys so much, and signing out.